Let's go and put this in the car. Here we go. So one of the things I want to talk about this week is...
To help the system recognize digits, please say call or dial.
What I want to do this week is basically talk about why international law. And I think it's a bit of a funny story. After I graduated high school and I had to choose what I was going to study, and so I decided on political science because I like politics. I do like politics. And more in particular, I thought I'd do American studies on the side. Imagine a kid from Queens, from a small neighborhood within Queens in New York, who never set foot outside of that neighborhood, suddenly thrust into Manhattan. That was like me, a deer in the headlights. I was so innocent, I guess. We're gonna go into the parking garage in a second. Give me a ticket. Thank you. The brakes are really squealing. It's like a pig. Jeez. So I went to the United States for 3 months, travel around. My first time there. Obviously, I dropped out of college. So I had to do my 1 year of national military service. I was one of the last ones who was still being drafted. And actually, I didn't mind. As in, I almost applied to the military academy, but for some reasons, I didn't do it. I was being idealistic. I thought military service, and also putting that military service to use abroad, like for instance Bosnia-Herzegovina, would be good. My military service actually sparked a bit of an idealism in me, as well as a sense of adventure, but also I also combined it with my interest in international relations. And the funny thing is, I decided on an international law not just because political science turned out to be not for me, but because I helped a mate who was being fined for some silly thing, and on the form, on the fine actually paper that he got, there was an error with dating. So I looked up all the regulations and so on, and I found indeed it was an error. And I had to rescind the fine. I wrote a letter for the guy, and he got off. This law thing, this regulations thing, sparked a rebellious side in me. Emergency services somewhere. There we go. I decided to study law after my year in the army. And quite naturally, it would be international law. There you go again. This is day 3, the workout every day challenge. After lunch, I didn't do anything. I just ate. As you know, I like to ride my bike, but I'm not a bike mechanic. I love my bike, but I shouldn't be screwing around with the gears. This was not an inexpensive bike, so I wanted to work properly. Even if I'm only just a recreational rider, or even because I am a recreational rider, this thing should just then work. I had a bit of a shave this morning because tomorrow there will be a TV crew coming around from French TV to follow me around for a couple of hours. Why? Well, they want to see how a freelancer in the Netherlands works, what he does, how flexible he is, I think. I have no idea how they got to me and why they would want me. I explained in an email saying, well, I'm pretty boring, groceries, working behind my desk, sometimes a presentation once in every 2 or 3 months. I don't know. I try to explain, I try to discourage, but they're coming anyway. So this is the first book that I ever read about public international law. It's Michael Akehurst's A Modern Introduction to International Law, 6th edition from 1987. Now, I didn't read this book in 1987. I read this, I think, in probably 1991, maybe even 1990 when I started, well, probably 1991. It was interesting, but I don't have any good recollection. I remember passing the class with only barely. When I got to the VU University to study law after my military service, I intended to study international law. I don't remember which book we used when I did public international law at the VU. Oh well. My true awakening when it comes to international law came when I started writing my master's thesis. In a previous course, before I started researching and writing, I had stumbled upon the issue of jurisdiction. I had read, we had talked about in class, and I had presented a paper on extraterritorial jurisdiction and the Helms-Burton Act, and I got fascinated with jurisdiction at first. On what grounds can a state assert jurisdiction? Does it need to assert any grounds for jurisdiction, or can it just do so? And in researching the paper, I stumbled upon, yes, you guessed it, the Lotus case.
Oh, God help me.
So I started digging deep into jurisdiction, but most of all I started getting into the Lotus case, dissecting it, and writing my master's thesis about it. And it was the best grade I've ever had during my entire university career. A lot of things fell into place in terms of why I love international law. And I think in this video is actually the first time I'm really trying to articulate what I like about international law. One, as I've always said in many classes, if you do public international law, you're inherently an idealist. But I think that goes not just for public international lawyers, it goes for any lawyer, because you have a certain fidelity to the law in general. Talking about jurisdiction and talking about the Lotus case made me fall in love with the technique of it all. The technique of arguing about international law, looking towards those boundaries of law, constructing an argument, appreciating sources, interpreting sources like treaties. But what my master's thesis really revealed is that I love research and that I love writing. I think I had finally found a purpose for my writing, which I had loved before, but I never had a purpose for it. If we go back to public international law, one of the reasons that I love doing international law is this interplay between law and politics. There is always an interplay between law and politics, but in international law, it is much more pronounced because of a lot of insecurities that surround international law and its enforcement, for instance. Leaving the university, writing a blog, doing these videos, and writing my book proposals is me trying to combine everything that I love without the constraints of a university structure, academic requirements, and the idealism of bringing international law, basically, to you. I love this, but the thing is I shouldn't be binge eating on my day that I'm not writing, and I decided to so I decided to do 6 days a week instead of 7 days a week of working out, because I don't think I could just manage that. You must be really getting sick of me on this freaking trainer. Hopefully tomorrow or Saturday and or Sunday I'll be out on the bike. Let's hope so. The gear is The gears are working now. I gotta say, you can get addicted to this kind of thing. Hey, just waiting for the French TV crew to arrive. I'm actually quite nervous. I think that's them. As it is.
2 hours later.
God, I really need to up my YouTube game. A French cameraman, reporter came around, filmed me, inside, outside, interviewed me in my office, and I don't capture anything for YouTube. God, such an amateur. I think, you might not even believe me that they were here, but on the March 14th, it will be broadcast. They're going to send me a link, and I'll try to link it up on my website, on YouTube, whatever. Not a great unboxing because I already opened it. Damn it. Anyway. Yes. More US constitutional law stuff.